was young. I was driven. I thought I was as strong as an ox. I'll deal with that later. Okay. 21-year-old, I didn't even consider long-term mental health, of putting an act on every day, of being somebody who I wasn't every single day I went to work. I honestly thought I was invincible. I was at the start of a very, very exciting flying career, and I wanted to succeed. So I was just hugely optimistic. I really was. And I went into an environment that was very hierarchical. It was very competitive, like many companies are, where performance was everything and failure equated to weakness. And there was this masculinity going on. But, no hardship at all. And 3 years later, I actually ended up qualifying as an RAF fast jet pilot. I couldn't believe it. And I ended up flying this aircraft, the Hawk, the same aircraft that the Red Arrows fly. So I was living the dream, and I couldn't have been happier. Now things start to get a little bit more tricky. So this is now 3 years into my career. I get selected to do the next course in flying training, which was the equivalent of Top Gun. Well, I say the equivalent. It's not in California, and it's on Anglesey. It's not really sunny, and we don't play beach volleyball. It's horizontal rain, but the flying is really, really similar. And they want me at the very top of my game. Now in flying, a bit of an aside here, oddly, even though it's this sort of masculine environment, or it certainly was, we are a little bit ahead of industry 20 years ago, because we used to talk about stress all the time, and we equated stress and performance. And we have this concept called the stress bucket. I won't get sucked into it, but basically we all have tolerances of stress in our working day, and the bucket fills up and overflows. The point is that when I got to do the Top Gun course, they wanted me at the very peak of my performance, but my stress bucket was filling up. It was overflowing because of my private life. Now, what was going on with my stress bucket? Just at that point, when the RAF wanted me at the very peak of my performance, my stress bucket was full with my private life. I started losing clarity of thought. I kept asking myself, how had I got myself into this situation? I couldn't speak to anybody because it was against the law. Anybody I spoke to would be expected to tell my senior officer. The workload was through the roof. I had these deep inner feelings. I was geographically isolated in Anglesey. And I started this internal dialogue that was so negative. It wasn't a positive thing at all. I guess these days we would call it mental health. But at the time, I didn't know anything about mental health at all. All I knew was I was having negative thoughts. I kept almost like gathering information against myself. Work was getting on top of me. Banter was getting on top of me, and the demands of the job were getting on top of me. Negative thoughts, gathering evidence against myself that I was a bad person. It was me that was the problem, not the system. It was my fault. And the internal dialogue went over and over again. I was on one of these missions, these really high pressure missions. I ended up getting rushed into hospital with abdominal pains. They were convinced I'd actually got, an appendicitis, when actually I hadn't. And it was a nurse with psychiatric training said, I think you're suffering from acute stress. Anyway, I couldn't speak to her because she was part of the army structure. So I just went back and rejoined the course. And then I talk about a particular flight where I made a huge mistake, where I fired a simulated missile at the simulated enemy. And it wasn't. It was actually my squadron buddy. And if it had been for real, I'd have shot down my squadron buddy in the air. So I equate at this point that the stress I was going through was not only affecting my mental health, it was affecting my physical health. I was actually taken into hospital. But from a hard-nosed business point of view, it was affecting my performance. So there's a well-being aspect of this, but also for people who are leaders or team members, not just an LGBT issue, but anybody that's got something on their mind and we're not sharing it. And I think it's really relevant at the moment with COVID. Don't be surprised if the performance starts plummeting if we just do that stiff upper lip British thing and don't talk about things.